Hello, this is Crystal Racing. Qualifying has resumed just over 10 minutes ago. Let's go to the leaderboard, shall we? Albert is quickest, just by over Alonso. Hamilton. Ocon has been slowest in all 10, in all 3 practice sessions so far, just be clear. Tiny Japan did a kamikaze, yes. Yuki Tsunoda flipping his car Bottas style at the Villeneuve chicane. A corner aptly named after the Canadian 6-time Grand Prix winner had an accident there back in 1980 when Emilia held what was then called the Italian Grand Prix because Monza was having circuit changes for safety reasons back then. Oh, it looks like Hamilton might have had his time deleted since, of course, there's now a dash. Oh, I don't know what's going on with Ferrari. Ocon's had his time deleted. He's been slowest in all 3 sessions so far. I mean, he's been having a miserable weekend. COLAPINTO goes third quickest for the Alpine team. Obviously, having replaced Mick Dowen's son, Jack. Of course, we've only got, 8.5 minutes to go because, of course, Tsunoda did a big poo-poo on the track. And, of course, say it, the lap times they did in practice, was it a 1 minute 14.7? Blimey, what? Bloody hell, these cars are really quick now. I think, what else was I going to say? Yeah. Hadjar goes third quickest in the RB. Third fastest. My God, I mean... Yeah, obviously, Tamburello used to be a 180 mile an hour quick corner. Hello there, Keith Mature. I hope you're doing well this afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Of course, this is being held at a reasonable time here for us in Europe. Of course, it's like nearly 4:30 in most of Central Europe. It's 3:30 here. It's nearly 3:30 in Britain, so... And of course, yeah, the FA Cup final will be starting at 4:30 instead of course, 3 o'clock like it was last year, which meant, of course, last year I only saw, like, I don't know, 30, like the last half an hour between Man United and Man City. C6, yeah, the C6 tyre, obviously the softest and fastest compound Pirelli have designed for this season. Obviously, they're using it here because tyre degradation doesn't really seem to happen much around this track. But what we do have at Emilia is that it's more of a demanding track for brakes, fuel, and the engines because of the heavy braking zones. And of course, a lot of slow corners littering the track. Alonso's gone quickest. Hola, caballeros. Se la cara. Yes, Alonso is gone. Alonso's second quickest, but by like half a second behind Verstappen. Let's see the drop zone. The 2 McLarens still haven't done a lap yet. Ocon is in real trouble. Tsunoda will be eliminated because of his crash, and he'll be starting last. Verstappen, quite a decent lap, but that is nowhere near as quick as, of course, Piastri's fastest lap in FP3, which was a 1 minute 14.7 something. Of course, I mean, but by the way, McLaren went 1-2 in all practice sessions, so and look at that. Piastri's gone second quickest, unsurprisingly. Norris is in 6th. Not that it matters how quick. I mean, as long as McLaren get no one has crashed, just so you know. Only Tsunoda has binned his car. Of course, Red Bull have got a second driver problem. It's official. They can't find a driver who can drive their second car because it's clearly tailored towards Max Verstappen's preference for a positive front end. 7 people watching here at Crystal Racing. Welcome everyone. This is the qualifying session at Emilia. It is Q1. We are just under 5 minutes remaining. Alonso. Well, I think obviously Aston Martin have a slow car, but Alonso is actually looking fairly quick-ish considering what car he has. I don't know. Oh yeah, 500 qualifying is on this weekend. Yes, how can I forget? I don't know. I don't think I'll be. Will I be doing live commentary for that? Because I think qualifying could take up to like 6 hours or something. Was Indianapolis, so maybe later on tonight when it's like the last 2 hours, I might comment. I don't know. Do they? Don't they also do? Was it? I know in the past they used to do a bumper session for all the cars that were the slowest, but I think now they're doing it the other way around, where like all the cars that are too slow for the 500 get bumped out tonight rather than on a Sunday. I don't know. I think that's more me watching old archive footage from like the early 90s, where infamously the old team with Al Hunter Jr. and of course Emerson Fittipaldi got knocked out in 1995 in one of the biggest shocks at Indy. Of course, I think the closest thing we've had to a shock in recent years has been Ryan Hunter Ray for Andretti Autosport, and of course James Hinchcliffe for what was then called Arrow Schmidt Peterson, which is now of course the Arrows McLaren team. And let's just look at the dropout, the knockout zone. Yep, both Saubers of Hulkenberg and Bottas, and both Haas's of Bearman and Ocon are in the drop zone. And Tsunoda has been eliminated, all thanks to his own doing. Lawson, once again, is in deep trouble. If he's not careful, he could be gone. COLAPINTO in his first Grand Prix since, was it Abu Dhabi? Yeah. Also potentially in danger, along with, of course, Hadjar in the sister RB. And Stroll is not that far ahead at Hamilton. Yeah, there's 2 days of qualifying at Indianapolis. I beg your pardon. Indianapolis, yeah, they always do like 2 or 3 days of qualifying at Indy. Like, I mean, the thing with the Indy 500, it's really like a 3-week event. I know back in the old days it used to last an entire month. And obviously qualifying would be a huge event in itself, and like I think there's even been occasions where they've even given out points for like getting pole position and stuff like that in Indy, because it's just such a big grand event. Even though obviously ever since the split occurred in 1996, where the IRL, the Indy Racing League, left the kart series, I mean, the interest in IndyCar racing then dropped off horribly in America after that. And truth be told, has never truly recovered back to its 1995 levels. When, of course, Jacques Villeneuve won both the 500 and the championship that season. Of course, Yuki Tsunoda crashed in the corner named after his own dad. The pit stop tournament, okay. I mean, you don't get points for that, but we've got 65 seconds remaining. Verstappen ahead of Piastri and Alonso. Gasly and Antonelli. Gasly looks like he's through. Both Williams, as always. Yeah, but it's all about the money. It's all about the money, Kiefer. Why else would Miami get such a lengthy contract? Lawson is in trouble. Lawson is in trouble. Yes, Bottas with a great lap, getting himself out of the drop zone. But of course, Albon, Leclerc and Albon are also pretty close to the drop zone, despite being in the top 10. There's only less than 3/10 of a second. That separates Albon from Lawson, so he better be careful. Yes, Liberty Media in charge of F1 these days, so why are we surprised? F1 Fanatics rants was absolutely disgusted. Yeah, well, I think we were all disgusted, really. I think COLAPINTO's crashed. COLAPINTO's in trouble, folks. Oh, that's a red flag. That's it, folks. So, well, it looks like where's Bearman? Bearman gets himself out of trouble. So that's Bottas and his teammate Hulkenberg out for Sauber. Lawson qualified 17th. Shocking result once again. 19th is Ocon, who has been the slowest guy in all 3 practice sessions. So that is actually no surprise at all. I have no idea what's going on with Ocon this weekend, but then this is the history of Esteban Ocon. Amazing 1 minute, dreadful the next. And of course, Tsunoda eliminated himself with that crash at the Villeneuve corner. So ultimately, I don't know. I have to say Ocon, I don't know what it is with Esteban Ocon. He's just far too. As for, look, let's not be silly now. Let's not way in hell. Well, it's not really benefited. What's his name? Gasly, who's qualified who's gone 7th quickest anyway. So, I mean, it's gone at the end of the session. I mean, Gasly was never in danger of being eliminated. I think a gap of about 4/10 of a second. Zhou, yeah. Well, we all know, obviously, of course, how can we forget Ollie Oakes being sacked as team principal, followed by his swift and immediate evacuation to Abu Dhabi with his brother carrying a suitcase full of cash. His brother William, apparently, I don't know what's going on. I think there might be like a dispute between the Oakes family and the Mazepin family over the Formula 2 high-tech Grand Prix team. Obviously, I did a video about this. I think it's going to be a dispute between Dimitri Mazepin, and of course the Ocon brothers, because obviously with the sanctions in place for Russia, like I think the Oakes family thought that the team was theirs, but Dimitri Mazepin is probably filed a lawsuit saying that no, he's still in charge, despite the fact that there are obviously heavy restrictions over Russians being involved in international motorsport, as well as, of course, many sporting series these days. So, and look, I know I took the rip out of Norway and their performances in the Ice Hockey World Championships. Oh yeah, the Argentine fans were a bit crazy. Like, they just kept spamming Alpine's Twitter page and the Instagram pages this season. Kind of a bit like, I don't know, Alonso fans spamming Alpine for the past 2 seasons over, obviously, Ocon being a dev. Especially 2 years ago, like. But, you know, what was I going to say? Yeah, the reason why I laughed at Norway losing to Kazakhstan is that, you know, yes, Norway did a great job getting a point off America with the overtime loss, but that remains Norway's only point of the tournament. And of course, they've got to play Denmark, who destroyed Hungary 8-2 in the previous game, and of course, they've also got to then try and then, of course, their last game against Hungary is probably going to be a relegation decider, to be honest. I mean, that game is almost certainly going to be at least a must-win game, or at least try and get an overtime win against Hungary. Otherwise, for the first time in about 20 years, Norway will be relegated from the top division of the Ice Hockey World Championship. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's why I sat down and said that losing to Kazakhstan was a costly result. And by the way, I did a bit of research over why Norway has the sort of ice hockey team it does. It's because obviously Norway is a country that is filled with mountains rather than frozen ponds and frozen flat pieces of marshes like you get in Sweden and of course Finland. But yeah, Tsunoda absolutely in the board. I don't know what's going to happen to Tsunoda, to be honest, at Red Bull. And frankly, I mean, with Aston Martin rumoured to be keeping both Stroll and Alonso at the team next year, despite their new Honda, despite signing a deal with Honda, I have to say I'm not sure what future Tsunoda has in F1 because this is just going to pile the pressure on him. And of course, we all know Red Bull are kind of keen to get hold of Hadjar if they can. Because of course, Red Bull, their idea of signing drivers is like rolling a dice in the casino. That's their strategy, folks. This is what they're doing. They're just hoping for the best. They roll the dice and they hope they land on black or something good. Oh, landing 00. I do hope, agree that Chaz will stay at Red Bull. Yeah. Landing 00. Thank you for that, John, because obviously I don't gamble and I don't go to casinos. But what's I gonna say? Red Bull musical chairs. Let me look at all the comments I've got here. It used to be a fast left corner where Senna lost his life. Yeah, I know, because I've seen endless videos about how Senna lost his life. Obviously, the Emilia track was radically different to what it would end up becoming a year later, with of course chicanes put at Tamburello, Villeneuve, and then of course, funnily enough, they actually removed a chicane later on in the track. I can't remember what was it, the middle part, the Acra Minerali section. They actually turned that into a faster part of the track to compensate for the speed that got taken out of sector 1. Is Indy 500 qualifying happening today? Yes, it is. Just so you know, let's repeat again. Liam Lawson of RB has been eliminated from qualifying after Q1 has finished. Hulkenberg for Sauber has also been eliminated. Oh, and it looks like Bearman's had his time deleted and he's out. So Bortoletto has actually qualified for Q2, I beg your pardon. So Bearman had his final lap deleted. And of course, Tsunoda eliminated himself. To everyone just joining, we have 2 crashes there. COLAPINTO and Yuki, yes. COLAPINTO also had an accident which brought out the second red flag in Q1 and brought the session to a virtual halt. I'm trying to think, were there any seconds remaining? Oh, well, he just brought out the checkered flag. I think there were like 2 seconds remaining. So that of course, because Bearman had his time deleted, that actually rescued pushes of Bortoletto and means that Lawson and Hulkenberg and Ocon will be starting 16th, 17th, and 18th respectively. I think Bearman obviously committed. I think probably almost certainly breached the track limits for him to lose his time. Did I see Lance? Hang on. Oh my God, yeah, Lance. Blimey, what a lap from Lance. But not as good as Alonso, though. Oh no. Turns out Aston Martin have found a bit of pace when they needed it most. Who would have thought that? Because Aston Martin have struggled like a pig in the first 6 races of this season. Of course, I am borrowing a quote from Rubens Barrichello at the 2006 Australian Grand Prix when the Honda were having tyre warming issues. So, yeah. Of course, no one has liked my stream yet, so I don't know, maybe if you could like the video, I mean, it would be obviously preferable, but you know, you can do whatever you want. Lando being Lando, let's just check on Lando. 6th, yeah, it's only Q1, mate. It doesn't matter. I mean, as long as he gets within the top 15, that's all that counts. Obviously, my favourites to win the race. My predictions for the race and qualifying is that it's going to be a McLaren 1-2, but of course, when you have a driver like Lando Norris in the team, can you really be 100% confident that second place is in the bag? I'm not sure. And of course, Oscar Piastri has 4 wins to his name after just 6 races. So, as for Jack Dowen, I mean, he's still got a contract at Alpine, I think. I mean, he's part of Flavio Briatore's management group in terms of he's one of Flavio's clients. So, I mean, Jack Dowen still could return to F1 for we know if COLAPINTO struggles in the next 5 or 6 races. And I heard Antonelli brought his entire school class to the garage. Well, I mean, he is only 18 years old, so I'm guessing it's only been like 1 or 2 years since he went to school with them, so why not? You know, I'm pretty sure he still stays in contact with a lot of his school friends, considering how young he is. I mean, that feels like going back to the dinosaur ages for someone like me. I mean, I can't even remember like half of my old school friends' names anymore. So, oh, he's still studying. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, okay, yeah. I think it wasn't that long ago. Yuki Tsunoda was at university studying sports science. I mean, why not? I mean, Kimi Antonelli with his performances at Miami. I mean, getting pole for the sprint race and looking very quick in certain parts of the race, but not quite getting but not quite being able to string a race performance together is what costed him a chance of being for the first time in his career. Well, I mean, they don't do like endless no, they don't do like the intensive testing schedule that they used to have in F1 right up until like 2008, where like whenever the drivers were not racing, like Hamilton, Raikkonen, Alonso, Bottas, and all the rest of them had to go to a test session quite often in between races because, of course, right up until 2008, there were very few restrictions on testing. And, of course, it was only in 2009 where they brought in the new rule where they heavily restricted in-season testing for the drivers. So, yeah, obviously, I know that. I mean, yeah, but what I'm saying is that right up to 2008, they also used to have like a drivers testing doing testing sessions in between race weekends. Like, what was it? Ferrari had their own test track at Fiorano, often sending what's his name, Luca Badoa and Luciano Berti and Mark Janae around that track, as well as their other test track at Maranello. I know McLaren and Williams spent quite a fortune on doing the same thing, along with, of course, Renault. Well, actually, no, Renault didn't actually spend that much money on testing. I think Renault used to actually. I think there used to be a program back in 2003 where, like, certain teams and drivers, no, certain teams like Renault, was it Jordan, Minardi, and I think Sauber all went on like their own, were allowed to enter a third car in practice. And of course, they continued that for like 2004 and 2005, where all the cars that fit, all the teams that finished fifth or lower, like BAR Honda did the same in 2004, and then McLaren did it in 2005 because they realised they could save quite a fair bit of money on just getting a third car in to do extra practice laps at the actual track itself. Yeah, but Alpine are not in a good position. Alpine are so screwed now. Like they're in a desperate position where like Renault obviously wants to sell the team because they know they're never going to have any success in modern F1, and I mean they've got no one else who really wants to be involved in the management side of the team anymore, especially with what's happened to Ollie Oaks. Like they're beggars at this point. Beggars can't be choosers. They really can't. They can't choose, mate. I mean, it's not ideal. I don't really think Alpine want Flavio Briatore back at the helm, but because they also fell out with Otmar Schaffnauer, Laurent Rossi, Cyril Beatable, Alan Prost, to name a few other people, they've ran out of names to choose from now when it comes to the team principal / sporting side of the team. It's not exactly a good place they are in, Alpine. What? Wait, what's going on? Are we? Oh yeah, they're still fixing the track for what's it? COLAPINTO's. Yeah, they've also sacked plenty of staff members, as well as of course sacking the managers. Oh, they have more sacked team members than Man United have sacked managers. Yes. How can we forget? Of course, I don't know where Seiragora is, but my God, we're having a lengthy delay to sort out a track after Colapinto made a mess out there. Gonna have a good. What's going on? I'm gonna have an update from the F1 website because the commentators are not telling me what's going on. Like, seems to be they're too busy talking to themselves. Oh, they were reviewing Bearman's lap time. They want to make sure that. Oh yeah, he's in the Jazz H. Yeah. That's interesting. They're also reviewing Bottas. Oh, they're reviewing Bearman's. All right, the confusion over Bearman's lap time has delayed the session as well. Where did he crash? Where did Colapinto crash? I'm trying to see. Was that? Don't know what corner that was. Too much curve. Oh, at Tamburello. Blimey, that's one of the worst places on the track you can get yourself eliminated. Yeah, it looks like qualifying will probably overlap with the FA Cup, I'm afraid. Although, thankfully, this year it's going to start at 4:30, or of course 5:30 for those of you in Europe, the FA Cup. Of course, last year it started at 3:00/4:00, meaning that I only saw about half an hour of the game, where of course Man United were already winning 2-1 by that point. Well, 2-0, of course. Man City pulled a goal back through Jeremy Doku, but that was not enough to save City's blushes that day. And of course, the FA Cup win meant that Man United, at the last minute, managed to gain a place in the Europa League thanks to that FA Cup victory. Where, of course, next week they're going to be playing in the Europa League final against their mud brothers, Tottenham Spurs. Sorry, Tottenham Hotspurs. I don't know where, but frankly, I mean, I've seen better quality potatoes than Tottenham this season. I mean, the sports, just like United, have been diabolically, hilariously bad, but thanks to the magic of the Europa League and the fact, obviously, the Champions League teams do not get to have a second chance of dropping to the Europa League like seasons gone past, Man United and Tottenham have got a reprieve thanks to the fact that teams like Athletic Bilbao and Bodo Glimt can make it to the semi-final nowadays. I've got to say it. I mean, obviously, we all knew Bodo Glimt never really stood a chance against Tottenham, since, I mean, Bodo Glimt's players are probably back mostly, frankly, Championship / League One quality at best. As for Athletic Bilbao, sorry, shocking performance, just shocking. Yeah, that's a dark joke right there from you, John. We all know what happened on one occasion, happened to a certain Brazilian three-time champion back in '94. And of course, back in 1989, there was also Gerhard Berger crashing at Tamburello with his car being set on fire, but luckily for him, he escaped with a pair of burnt hands instead. And he actually managed to return in time for the Monaco Grand Prix with bandages over his hands because, of course, Ferrari, thanks to John Barnard, had designed the first semi-automatic gearbox in F1 history, where instead of changing gears using the gear lever and using a foot to operate the clutch, instead, Mansell and Gerhard Berger changed gears using the flappy paddle gear shifts, which is now universal in modern F1, on the steering wheel. Oh, right, what was her name? That Spanish lady, that the daughter of Emiliano de Villota, was her name? Maria de Villota. Oh yeah, she had a. Oh yeah, she crashed into like the back of a truck for some baffling reason, even though she was only doing a straight line test. And then, because of the injuries to her eye, it caused her some sort of neurological problems in her brain, which meant that she had a seizure one night a year later and then tragically passed away because of it. Yeah, I mean, Bodo Glimt, I don't know, mate. It is what it is with Bodo Glimt, so really. Oh, yeah, because what's it? Marussia had the accident with Maria Di Villota with the straight line test. I don't know. I don't think they like had a particularly unsafe car or anything. I think it was just a case of bad luck with both Bianchi and, of course, Diavolotta. I mean, with Diavolotta, like she never like did anything good in the junior series. So why on earth was she even testing the car in the first place? I have no idea. Um, Bodo Glimt, yeah. Well, I think obviously Bodo Glimt have been focusing on the Europa League this season in the hopes of creating some memories. And in the end, I mean, I think getting to the semi-finals, beating Lazio will be a memory they'll treasure for a long time. So I don't think they'll actually regret it, to be honest. I mean, maybe next season they might if they fall in trouble, but I mean, in 10 years' time, like, I mean, does anyone really care about finishing second or third in the league if you don't go on some sort of cup run in Europe? Viking, wow, Viking are doing well, yeah. And it's the FIA's fault for not calling a red flag when Sue Till's car was being removed from the track. Yes, absolutely, of course. I know there were a lot of people angry with Charlie Whiting for what happened, but of course we have to remember Bianchi was speeding heavily under double wave yellows. Like he was actually disobeying the double wave yellows that the marshals were waving on the track. So yeah, I mean, of course, I don't want to like pass the blame on anyone, but maybe had he followed precautions a bit more carefully, he might have avoided the accident. Might have being a key phrase there. Who knows? But of course, due to those incidents, we have obviously they created a virtual safety car a year later, where of course the cars were then immediately, of course, on the virtual safety car conditions, your car must slow down in order to make sure that you don't exceed a minimum lap time, which obviously at some tracks it could be like a 2-minute 40 around Spa-Francorchamps. Other tracks like Silverstone, it could be a 2-minute 10, etc., etc. My God, what a long wait we've got! Like, bloody hell! It's nearly 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Where are you at? Or in Europe? Oh my goodness me! So yeah, it looks like a lot of people are gonna miss the start of the FA Cup final. I'm afraid. I don't think it's just you, John. I think it's gonna be quite a few Crystal Palace and Man City fans who are gonna miss the start of the FA Cup. I'm afraid. Unless, of course, they're attending Wembley right now. And likewise, the fans who are at Wembley are going to probably have to wait, I don't know, look at their phones to check the result of the F1 if they're interested. Also today, oh, right, I don't know. Okay, why do the Norwegians play a football match on a Friday on this weekend? I don't know why. Is it, I don't know, do the Norwegians have a royal family or something? Because I know the Dutch and the Swedes have a royal family, the Spanish have a royal family. By the way, like, I've always had this theory that the reason why that I think English became the universal lingua franca instead of French is, I think, is not only just because of the fact that Britain managed to colonize like the most important nations in the world. Yes, it is say it will be on in half an hour's time, but of course I will be sticking with the F1 regardless. But not only did, of course, Britain colonize places like America, Canada, well, most of Canada, because of course France got some of Canada and a few parts of America, but also Australia and New Zealand and even South Africa. But I think it's also because France got rid of their royal family in, what was it, the revolution of, what was it, 1786 or whatever year it was. It was like at the back end of the 18th century, they removed their royal family. So, okay. Oh, it's Constitutional Day on the 17th. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Got you. Yeah, the founding of Norway as a country, as a nation state. So yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah, what was it? I think France removing its own royal family at the end of the 18th century is probably why people don't look at France in the same sort of esteem as they do at Britain, because I don't know, I suppose Britain were more keen to keep hold of some of its traditions, like having a monarchy, compared to France, who, I don't know. I mean, the other problem with France is that most of the countries they colonize are places like mostly in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, northern Africa, like Morocco and Algeria and parts of Tunisia, some of the Caribbean islands in Central America, and of course, I think the only other place they colonized were a couple of islands in Oceania, like Tahiti, and of course Vietnam. But funnily enough, Vietnam doesn't have French as a second language at all, and of course, most Vietnamese people would rather learn English than French. So, someone lost out in the colonial wars despite actually conquering more land in Britain. And of course, yeah, Q2 is underway at last. Bottas is the fastest guy on the track, a 1 minute 16.7. And thank you for 2 likes. Of course, I will also, yeah. Obviously, I think next week they're going to conclude the Ice Hockey World Championship, since of course they're still doing the group stages. But obviously, I'm talking. Verstappen's gone quicker to a 15.4, but of course, I think there'll be plenty of drivers going quicker than that. Of course, this summer we do not have any World Cups or any Euros going on, but we do have the Club World Cup going on, which of course Man City will compete at, which frankly, I'm going to be very honest here, I don't have much interest in. I might keep up to date when we get to the quarterfinals, but apart from that, I'm not really excited. Yeah, like I said, I think I knew Norway had a monarchy. And of course, Norway, yeah, you are correct. Our royal family has got um, familial links to Norway's monarchy, like many other royal families. Franco Colapinto with a fantastic crash at the end of Q1 at Temporero. Thankfully, he emerged safe and unscathed with no injuries. And he did, well, I think he is guaranteed to start 15th unless, of course, he decides to start in a pit lane for whatever reason. Because, of course, if you make changes to your car, then you have to start in the pit lane under Park Fermate regulations. Yeah, I mean, it was a bit weird. Yesterday, we also had Man United and Tottenham playing, but I think that was probably more because, of course, they didn't want those two to be playing along with Chelsea on the same day as Man City and Crystal Palace for the FA Cup, since, of course, the FA Cup final is supposed to be a sacred day in English football, but, of course, the Premier League season doesn't end until next weekend, thanks to, obviously, the scheduling problems we have here with the extended Champions League format now being a thing. Norris goes quickest, but I think many people will be going quicker. Will be getting underneath for 1 minute 15. Both Ferraris in the top 5. Looks like everyone is now upping the tempo with Aston Martin dropping down the order. In the drop zone, Colapinto will not be saying a lap. So it's Gasly, Albon, Bortoleto, and Sainz. Bortoleto is probably going to drop out, I'm afraid, meaning that Gasly, Albon, and Sainz need to get a move on, with along, of course, Antonelli and the 2 Aston Martins, who look like they're in hot trouble right now. Piastri quickest by just 200ths of a second. Fantastic. Very close between the 2 McLaren boys. Albon made a mistake on his qualifying lap, just so you know. Sainz is in the top 10, so that's the drop zone. Stroll, Gasly, Albon, Bortoleto, and of course Colapinto will not be doing a qualifying lap. So he's out already. So it's Stroll, Gasly, Albon, and Bortoleto. Bortoleto's probably going to get knocked out anyway. That Sauber is far too slow to make it to Q3. It's only really about 3 drivers that I think are going to get eliminated, who will be quite annoyed with themselves if they do so. Of course, Aston Martin have found some solutions to their car problems this season. I did talk about rather dark statistic surrounding around, was it, Senna's passing back in 1994. I think I had a theory in my head when I was a kid that, like, once every 12 years, a driver might lose his life in F1 for some weird reason. Yep, no chips at Sauber or for steak. Don't gamble, kids. It's bad for you. Steak Sauber are proof of this, folks. They're proof that gambling is not glamorous and it's not a way of solving your money issues if you've got financial issues, obviously. Yeah, what was it? Jules Villeneuve lost his life in 1982. Obviously, Jules Villeneuve is from Canada, where, of course, a month later, Italian Riccardo Paletti was unalived at the Montreal race in Canada after hitting Jules' old teammate, Didier Pironi. Then, of course, 12 years later, of course, Ratzenberger and Senna lost their lives on live TV at the Emilia circuit in Italy. And just so you know, of course, Elio De Angelis also passed away in a testing crash in '86. Also another Italian driver, funnily enough. So But that happened at Paul Ricard in France. Don't do bets as well, yeah, fair enough. But, and I don't know what it was like, for quite a while when I was a kid, I always sat there and thought that someone might end up losing their life at the season ending 2006 Brazilian Grand Prix for some reason, because I thought it would be fate that someone would then lose their lives at Senna's home track of Interlagos in Brazil. Thankfully, that didn't happen, and thankfully, we've also not seen anyone have a fatal crash at the Red Bull Ring as well. So, yeah, 2000s is the only decade that we thankfully had zero deletions of drivers, thankfully. And not only that, we didn't see a single driver lose his life in a testing crash either, thankfully. But I know some people might say that Jules Bianchi, was born to a family with Italian ancestry in it. So I don't know, mate. I don't know whether he counts, but thankfully, well, I mean, his passing happened 21 years after 1994, so I think that kind of broke the pattern in my head. But enough of talking about really dark stuff. Stroll, Gasly, Albon, Bottas, and Colapinto are your bottom five for Q2. Both McLarens are first and second, like I predicted, and but Verstappen is keeping them quite close and honest in third place. Yeah, obviously, you're absolutely correct. 2010s, yes. Just over 4 minutes ago for this session's qualifying session in Q2. Having said that, Russell has regained his advantage over Kimi Antonelli for this weekend, being much quicker around his track. It just seems to be that at Miami, I think Russell just doesn't really like that track's characteristics very much. The two Ferraris remain fairly close together. Hadjar once again blindingly quick in the junior RB car. I mean, that's probably a... Oh, yeah, obviously, what was it? Jules Bianchi's uncle, Lucien Bianchi, was also... Oh, yeah, he also lost his life in sports car racing, I think. Blimey, how unlucky are that family, eh? Yeah. But of course, I think Lucien Bianchi was actually born and raised in Belgium instead, funnily enough. Because, of course, I know the Italians have a long history of immigrating to, well, pretty much a lot of other countries outside of their own country, to like England, Belgium, Germany, Scotland, Wales, Sweden. I think even Switzerland, obviously, because of course, oh yeah, the two father and son of Scories also both lost their lives at the age of 36. Yeah, that was a... I mean, obviously, I know a lot of people said, why did I not do a tribute to Senna this year? I think, dude, I was just busy doing something else, I'm afraid. So, and I've done plenty of tributes to Senna on my Twitter page and my YouTube channel. So it's not like, yeah, oh yeah, obviously Brazil. How can I forget Argentina? Plenty of Italians have immigrated there. Obviously, the Italians who immigrated to America and Canada and Australia have done a lot better, have been able to live a much more comfortable life there, though. Kimi Antonelli's on a good lap, by the way, everyone. Yep, okay, I think that's enough. Let me get on with qualifying. Apologies if you didn't enjoy the tone of the topics I was talking about. Antonelli's gone up to 8th place by the looks of it. I mean, apparently only a 10th of Piastri in the first sector, so looks like the Mercedes is not that great to drive around the second and third sectors. How many minutes have we got remaining? We've got 30 seconds to go, everyone, meaning that Stroll, Bottas, Gasly, and Albon need to get a move on with their qualifying laps because otherwise they'll be eliminated along with the already removed Colapinto. Oh yeah, that was yeah. What happened in 1994 was also had a huge crash in the first lap with JJ Leto and Pedro Lamy colliding, with 5 or 6 spectators getting injured from the debris that flew into the crowd. And there was also another incident where Michele Alboretto's rear wheel fell off his Minardi and ran into the back of a bunch of Ferrari mechanics towards the end of the race. So, and of course, that incident also forced the sport to bring in pit lane speed limits, which have remained in the sport ever since. So, obviously, what happened at the start in the first 4 races of F1 in 1994 completely transformed safety in F1. Stroll 6th, everyone. Stroll has gone up to 6th place. Leclerc, Hamilton, Antonelli, and Bottas are in the drop zone. So that's both Aston Martins in the top 10. Both Ferraris are out, folks. Scuderia T-Brake are in the mud, everyone. They are the F1 equivalent of Manchester United. Scuderia T-Brake at their home Grand Prix have been eliminated in Q2. And of course, yes, how can I forget, Rubinho had his crash in practice, which ruled him out for the rest of the weekend. Oh my God, 1990. I mean, there's a reason why you get so many documentaries about the 1994 Samu, Grand Prix, because it was just a weekend full of crashes and awful incidents, not just to the 2 drivers who lost their lives, but other drivers like Lamy, Leto, Alboreto, and Barrichello, and of course, 5 or 6 spectators who got injured from the debris that flew over the catch fencing. Yes, and Scuderia T-Brake, I am gonna be. I mean, my goodness me, they're probably gonna turn into Mikel Arteta when it comes to the post-qualifying interviews. The grass was too green. The track had a badger running across the track halfway through qualifying. Our tyres couldn't handle the heat. Lewis Hamilton doesn't like it when you insult his haircut. I don't know. Where's Sainz? Did Sainz get through? Oh, Sainz was quickest. Oh my God, Carlos Sainz took the fastest time. Are you kidding me? But of course, we all know McLaren are sandbagging. Yeah, even though McLaren are sandbagging, they're still second and third fastest. That's crazy, folks. What a insane, bonkers world we're living in. Carlos Sainz stops a qualifying session in a Williams, of all things. Albon straight through in 10th place, only 3 times slower than his teammate. Oh my goodness me. Yeah, but obviously the 1994 season saw the FIA remove traction control, active suspension, launch control, 4-wheel steer, and many other like electronic and mechanical devices that made I don't know, which led to many people at the time complaining that F1 was becoming too easy back in the early 1990s, thanks to of course Nigel Mansell's Williams FW14B, which was designed by the one and only Adrian Newey, to dominate the sport during 1992 with what was back then a record-breaking 9 wins for the season, the most wins for a driver back then, but of course there was only 16 races. The following year, Alan Prost took his seat, and of course Mansell left the sport because he didn't want to be Prost's teammate like he was at Ferrari a few years back. Prost also dominated the series with 7 wins. David Hill took 3 race wins despite being a rookie. And of course, that led to many complaints from spectators, pundits, and teams alike that the sport was too expensive, and the fact that Williams had a car that was so good that he allowed what was then a rookie David Hill to pick up 3 wins and finish 3rd in the championship. And of course, yes, the infamous option 13 on the Benetton, that was I don't know whether that, I mean, obviously there were many complaints about that. Had Senna survived Imola, I think, I don't know, Benetton could have well have been disqualified from the 1994 season. But of course, as we all know, Benetton were never fully punished for what was it, the technical claims that were made about the Benetton Ford B194. And of course, the team principal at Benetton was, you guessed it, the Italian prince himself, Flavio Briatore. Oh yes, oh yes, I bet you're loving this, Will. Look at that, Hamilton down in 12th. It's not just Hamilton is in the mud now. Leclerc's been dragged into this mess at Scuderia tea break, as I like to call them. Scuderia tea break, sacrificial teas at Scuderia. And all the Tifosi are leaving Imola as we speak. We're seeing the Ferrari banners disappearing into thin air. I mean, why on earth Ferrari decide to come up with a revolutionary new car design for this season when you consider the fact we're getting new regulations next year with the new hybrid formula coming in for 2026? I don't know. What a waste of money, Ferrari. You're wasting your money. Like, in what world did Ferrari think they were going to have a chance of fighting McLaren for this year's championship? Yes, it is. Yes, Will is in the chat. Let's give a wave to our friend Will. I hope you're doing well, Will. Obviously, I know Will likes to enter chats very late on in streaming sessions. And of course, thanks to the 2 lengthy red flags that we had for Tsunoda and COLAPINTO crashes today, Will has had a chance to join us. And of course, this qualifying session should have ended like 20 minutes ago, but it's probably going to finish at like about 35 minutes past 4 for those of you in Britain, 35 minutes past 5 for those of you in Europe or in South Africa, since of course I know a lot of South Africa is also an hour ahead of Britain. Gasly, where did Gasly ended up in P8? What a lap. Oh yeah, Lewis Hamilton, like I told you in another stream, raised the stock prices of Ferrari thanks to his signing. And yes, Aston Martin have finally got their act together. Fantastic performances by Alonso and Stroll on the medium compound tyres as well. What a lap by both of them. I mean, they were struggling in practice yesterday, but you know, I think a setup tweak has finally actually saved their blushes for once. Yeah, but that's his fault. Like, I know he's struggling to get a handle on that Red Bull, but he still shouldn't be going out there crashing in at the Villeneuve chicane like Sergio Perez would. It looks like Fernando Alonso might well be in F1 next season, since any rumours about Alonso deciding to rage quit on F1 is very premature. Are these C6 tyres bad? I don't know. I mean, they were brought for the purposes of forcing the teams to try and do a 2-stop this weekend. So maybe they might not be working. I get. Yeah, I mean, the fact that Aston Martin have set their fastest lap on their mediums is a bit suspect for Pirelli this weekend. Yeah, I'd probably have to agree with you, because for some reason these six tyres don't seem to be holding up like expected over 1 or 2 laps. But I mean, the problem is in previous years we've had a lot of one-stop races at Imola, so it's not like I mean, in terms of entertainment around Imola, I mean, we've not had many drivers attempt a two-stop because, frankly, it's not worth losing track position on a track like Imola where there are very, very few overtaking opportunities. Of course, we have to remember the 2005 San Marino Grand Prix saw Alonso hold off Schumacher for the last dozen laps, despite having a car that had heavy damage to the engine after some problem in qualifying and practice. And yet, despite having lost about 80 brake horsepower, Alonso was still able to hold off Schumacher to take one of his most famous career victories in the sport in what was only his fourth career win, I think, if I remember. And then a year later, Michael Schumacher did exactly the same to Alonso, only this time Schumacher came out on top. Now Q3 has started. Yeah, I think because of, track evolution, that Sainz, obviously being the last guy to set his qualifying lap, took advantage of the rubber on the track and came out first. And mind you, there was only 3 tenths of a second that separated Sainz and, of course, his teammate, Alex Albon. So, of course, Alex Albon scraped in as the 10th fastest guy ahead of the 2 Scuderia T-brake cars. Scuderia T. I think, what year are we talking about? Silverstone? Are we talking about Hamilton's puncture when he finished the race on 3 wheels back in 2020? Oh, yeah, because what was it? I think the tyres that weekend were very soft. But I knew it was the first race we had at the race 1, because, of course, the following weekend we had the 70th anniversary race, which Max Verstappen won in the Red Bull with a fantastic performance in front of an empty crowd, I may say, thanks to the pandemic causing all sorts of chaos back then. Still curious what happened to Antonelli. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think Antonelli was just too slow, mate. I think Antonelli was on a quick lap, but then he made a couple of errors in Sector 2 and Sector 3. And because he was half a second slower than the McLarens, I mean, that was enough to get him knocked out. I think Kimi and his team completely underestimated the time required to qualify for Q3. So, I mean, I suppose he's got a bit to learn on that in that department. Oh, Norris goes quickest, the first driver to go underneath 1 minute 15, but Piastri pinches first pole position. A 10th quicker than Norris 7.5 minutes ago. McLaren are getting their fast laps in already. Still got 4 drivers set to set a lap. Stroll out qualifies Alonso. Verstappen fastest. I apologise for speaking there, but Verstappen half a tenth faster than Piastri. Yeah, Leclerc's not qualified or finished in the top 2 this season, but then he is driving a piece of turd at Maranello, so he's doing the best he can, to be honest. Hamilton, no, Hamilton is really struggling now in his 40s. Yeah, I mean, Ferrari, I think, I know Sainz is not the best outright driver, but I think some of his technical expertise did come in quite useful at times when he was at Ferrari, and now that, they replaced him with Hamilton, who, was a driver I think relied a fair bit on his pure natural driving talent, is now not really in a position to help Ferrari with their technical issues. So, That's what you get for signing a name, Ferrari. That's what you get. Like, I'm not even sorry, to be honest. Oh yeah, he did finish second at the season opener 5 years ago, behind Bottas, thanks to, and I think Norris finished third, thanks to a time penalty for Hamilton, because of course Hamilton collided with Alpine after the safety car restart. Yeah, Ferrari, they are the F1 version of Man United, early 2000s. Man United were dominating the Premier League, just like Schumacher and Ferrari were dominating F1. Kimi won the 2007 F1 Championship, and of course Ferrari won the 2007 and 8 Constructors' title at the same time when Man United ended their 3-year gap, 4-year gap without Premier League title, just like Ferrari ended their 3-year gap without drivers or constructors title between 2004 and 2007. But unfortunately, though, Ferrari have not actually done anything since 2008, whilst Man United's Premier League winning streak came to an end after 2013. Oh yeah, but the problem is Leclerc then crashed towards the end of Q3 at Monaco, from what I remember, and I don't know what happened, but I can't remember, but I think was that he then had another problem in the warm-up lap, which ruined his race for 2021 Monaco. So Leclerc himself can be his own worst enemy, despite the team he's driving at. I mean, yeah, obviously Team LOH, as annoying as they are, well, Leclerc's getting dragged into the mud now, so I mean, I don't know. I think obviously, yeah, Leclerc broke. Oh, yeah, Leclerc damaged his gearbox, so they had to take on a 5-place grid penalty to replace his transmission. I mean, obviously, don't you worry. There'll be a few Hambozy who'll accuse Ferrari of this and that. They'll be like, oh, well, Leclerc might have had a bad day, but Hamilton's been screwed over from day one. All that rubbish, as always. Because like I said, Piastri is a good driver, but his qualifying pace is his nemesis. I mean, and this is why I keep saying that I think deep down Norris is still the faster driver over one lap. Of course, Norris's lack means that he can't really capitalise upon his raw pace. Oh, right. Okay, that's why. Oh, yeah, I forgot now. Sorry, it's 4 years ago now. They did change the gearbox because they really badly wanted to avoid the grid penalty. That was absolutely ridiculous by the Scuderia team break boys. We have 3 minutes remaining of Q3. I'm presuming Gasly probably won't really do much of a qualifying run. At least they would have picked up more points, I guess. It was it by trying to persist with the broken gearbox. Yeah, I think Ferrari obviously trying to go for the win or podium that weekend, but yeah, obviously Baxter's Sec P2 turned into virtual P1. Yeah, but Ferrari, I've said it time and time again, as a Kimi Raikkonen fan, I know what a joke of an organisation that Ferrari is. Yes, obviously Kimi was past his best when he returned in 2014, but even then, Ferrari kept finding a way of making Kimi Raikkonen's weekend even worse than it already was when he was there, every time he was driving for them. And of course, yeah, Carlos Sainz finished second by that race, 2021 Monaco. Yeah, obviously, Leclerc, as we all know, always has a stupid habit of pushing over the limit when it's not required. Leclerc's another driver with problems with his racecraft and his general car management. Did I almost say? I don't know. Dude, I was not thinking of McLaren at all. Don't you worry about that. What do I think might be the fundamental and principal reason of why Ferrari has not been able to win any championship for 17 years? Poor management, a questionable technical team where, yes, I know they've designed a couple of decent cars in 2017 and 18, but politics behind closed doors between Matteo Binotto and Matteo Bene, along with, of course, the passing of, what was his name, that chairman they had who ended up signing Charles Leclerc, also caused all sorts of issues at Ferrari. I mean, obviously, the design crew they had at Ferrari between 2010 and 14, when Alonso was their lead driver, was also pretty awful. Piastri's taken pole, everyone. It's pole position for Piastri. Lando Norris is on a lap. Oh yeah, Macchioni, thank you. Let's just have a look at Max Verstappen. I'll reply to your comments in a minute's time. Oh, Max is struggling, folks. Lando Norris remains in third place. Piastri once again takes pole position for a second consecutive weekend. Piastri hitting the peak of his form. What a driver he is, folks. He really has improved massively this season. Oh yeah, obviously, I know people used to say that with Toyota and Honda when they were running F1 teams in the late 2000s, that the reason why they couldn't succeed is because their committee, they ran their racing teams like a pair of committees. So people with no racing knowledge were in charge of the F1 team, and of course Piastri, what a driver he is. We've got to give him his flowers, folks. Yeah, but I think over the years, Leclerc has kind of become a little bit more cautious with more crashes, with his frequency of crashes, making him realise that he was pushing too hard. Ferrari, yes, obviously 17, 18, and 22. They started the year with arguably the fastest car and then ended the season with what was probably only the second fastest car, and in some races, only the third fastest car in places like Brazil and Abu Dhabi and Mexico and a few other races where they just really lost their way over the course of the season. Yeah, the quietness of Kimi and the driving style of Schumacher. A lot of people have said that, folks. Although I would say that he's also got a bit of Jenson Button's smoothness in him as well, and his ability to be just so relentlessly consistent and not put his car under too much strain. Who the hell is Jason? Like, who's Jason? Like, can you tell me who Jason is? I've never heard of Jason. I mean, the problem is Ferrari have now followed the Toyota, Alpine, and Honda model of allowing your committee to run your racing team, your corporate car division of your company to take over the racing department, which is always a dumb idea. Yeah, don't remind me of 2018. Everyone failed. Obviously, yes, I agree with Will. Piastri needs to still improve his qualifying a bit more to become a real challenger to Verstappen if both of them were to ever have equal cars. But you've got to give Piastri his flowers here. He has been relentlessly consistent since the start of this season. Oh, the blatantly racing bias podcast who used to be a Vettel fan. Okay, fair enough. And of course, yes, I know some of you will be heading off for the FA Cup final since, of course, this qualifying session was delayed by the antics of Yuki Tsunoda and the fracas of Franco Colapinto. Oh, right, the last time Ferrari won a race in 2022 was Austria. Oh, yeah, Ferrari didn't win a single race for the second half of the year because, of course, Max Verstappen went on like, what was it? I can't remember. Did he win like 9 consecutive races? No, 7 consecutive races because it got interrupted by what happened at Singapore, or not Singapore, was it? Oh, yeah, Russell won at Brazil. I forgot. Yeah, Russell took his first ever Grand Prix win at Brazil that season. Although it has to be said, I think all 3 of George Russell's Grand Prix wins were all like the byproduct of another driver having issues. Like, I think the Austrian Grand Prix won last year when Max and Norris collided. And of course, Las Vegas, where of course I think Max and Norris are coming together of some sort. So, and that's the first time he's qualified in the top 5 since China last season. What a performance by the 43-year-old rookie, eh? What a rookie driver he is, I've got to say, car number 40. Okay. Hadjar, unsurprisingly, takes 9th ahead of Gasly, Albert, Sainz and Albert 6th and 7th. I mean, both Red Bull and Ferrari have got to look over their shoulder because that team from Grove in Banbury are looking very quick right now. I mean, as we all know, Verstappen did end up breaking Vettel's record for most consecutive wins when he took 10 wins up to Monza. And it was only at Singapore that his streak of race wins came to an end when he finished only 5th in a race, and Sainz became the only non-Red Bull driver to win a race in 2023. Yeah. Yeah, Alonso, it's back on form, everyone. I mean, it's been a difficult 18 months at Aston Martin, but Alonso is sort of looking like his old self again. And despite the fact that he, as with age, with his age, of course, he has been developing a few back problems due to the fact that he is now like 43 years old. And he is driving at an age where most drivers would have been retired from F1 long before. But I mean, the thing with Red Bull is that they would have to radically overhaul their design strategy for the car if Max was not there, because they would have to actually try and design a car that was drivable rather than one that was heavily reliant upon a positive front end of the car. 35 wins between, my God, that's crazy. That is mental. My God, yeah. To be honest, if it wasn't for the cost cap regulations we got, I think Verstappen would probably have like, I don't know, 73 race wins by this point. But obviously, the cost cap regulations have allowed McLaren to close the gap on Red Bull and overtake them. Oh yeah, that Renault also had in 2005 and 6 was a bulletproof car, I've got to say. I think the only mechanical issues they ever had always seemed to occur on Fisichella's number 2 machine, funnily enough. If Max leaves Red Bull halfway through the season, are they screwed? Of course they're screwed. Like, obviously you're free to ask any sort of question you want, but that is sort of a little bit of a daft question, to be honest, because, well, I don't think Max Verstappen would just leave the team halfway through the season for no reason, and even if it did happen, obviously, yeah, they'd have, I don't know, I mean, would they even be able to score points without him at this point? I'm not even sure, because, I mean, with Yuki Tsunoda struggling in the second car, it looks like even if Max Verstappen was to win a championship again, Red Bull would finish 4th place in the constructors, maybe even 5th if Williams could really put pressure on them. So yeah, there is your top 9. 10th place is obviously Gasly, but I can't fit his name on the page. Obviously, Gasly didn't really bother doing much of an attempt in Q3 since Alpine are not that quick. Yeah, oh yeah, I forgot. Obviously, yeah, Alonso did have a couple of mechanical failures halfway through 2006, but by and large, that Renault was almost bulletproof. But obviously, mechanical failures for Schumacher at, what was it? Japan 2006 in the race itself, and of course, qualifying at Brazil a week later, obviously, scuppered Schumacher's hopes of making it 8 championships for his career. Yeah, obviously, as much as I dislike Lance Stroll, he's pretty decent over a race distance, and he's even better when the track starts raining. And it also happens to be a street circuit. But apart from that, he's bang average. And look at that, 14.67 for Piastri. Obviously, he's actually only gone about less than a tenth quicker than he did in FP3. So, in a sense, I think that qualifying lap wasn't quite as impressive as it could have been, to be honest, because usually in qualifying, he'd go like 3 or 4 tenths quicker than he did in FP3. Next year, if it's true, Mercedes engine will dominate, then Ferrari, Red Bull obviously will be using Ford engines. Oh yeah, Williams, Alpine, and McLaren will also be using Merc engines. So yeah, Red Bull have got a problem because obviously no one has any idea of whether the Ford engine will be competitive. And I think Ford might be a bit careful with how much they'll push their engine next season, because of course I think they've only got the junior or B team to take test samples from. Norris, I don't know, but Norris is not the most consistent driver, is he? I'm afraid these days. Aston are screwed. Well, Honda have actually improved their engine a lot when they've been at Red Bull. So I don't think Aston Martin are in trouble. I think Red Bull are the ones in trouble because Ford have not I don't know, thrown money at developing an engine in F1 since 2004 now, when of course they were giving Jaguar and Jordan Cosworth engines back in 2004. I think Aston Martin will be okay when it comes to the engine front. I think it's more the chassis that none of us are 100% sure what Adrian Newey will design. And of course, I think Adrian Newey has not designed a car around a Mercedes engine since 2006 now, probably. So that might be an interesting one, because obviously I don't know whether Adrian Newey can fit his car design around the ergonomics of a Mercedes engine. Ferrari as well, if they produced a worse engine than Mercedes and Ferrari, well, who knows what's going to happen to Ferrari? They are their own worst nemesis. And I don't know, trying to get my TV to go to another channel now. So for those of you who are still wondering, yes, that is the top 9. Gasly is down, will start the race in 10th. And the guys who failed to make the top 10 were the 2 Ferraris of Leclerc and Hamilton. Antonelli for Mercedes, who both look like they miscalculated the time required to make it to Q3. Bottas with another impressive effort getting into P14. Yes, I am just looking at the images of the FA Cup now, 15 minutes into the game, and there's no scores, so no one's actually missed much. COLAPINTO crashing out at the end of Q1, but his lap time was good enough to qualify in P415 regardless, having actually already qualified for Q2, surprisingly enough. 16th, Lawson. Once again, another shocking qualifying performance for the under pressure Kimi, who... Oh, and Crystal Palace have gone 1-0 up. Hulkenberg 17th, Ocon 18th, Bearman 19th, and Tsunoda, who crashed out at the start of Q1, will start last, having failed to complete a single lap time. And, well, I think John will be pretty angry right now watching these images because, my goodness me, Palace could actually, well, Man City really need to get their heads in gear now. Let me read this comment from Kiefer. If Aston finished the way they are, then they would jump ahead of Haas. That would be funny given Haas started the season better than Aston. Yes, indeed. I don't know. I think Haas's strategy at trying to gain them a lot of points with obviously Ocon and Bearman like deciding to pit much later than everyone else in that race, hence why they scored a huge bucket of points that day with 5th and 8th for Ocon and Bearman, with Ocon getting 10 points and Bearman getting 4 points. But let's face it, apart from China, Haas have really struggled for most of this season, and Ocon, well, obviously we have to remember Bearman had his lap time deleted, because he did look like he was going to make it to Q2, but because his lap time got deleted, he's been out-qualified by Ocon, who's actually been the slowest car on track in all 3 qualifying sessions. So, we're only 17 minutes into the match, but yeah, anyway. As things stand, Man City will qualify for the Champions League because I think they've scored enough points, just about enough points to probably only need like 1 or 2 more points in the last 2 games. So, let's face it, I don't think anyone can say the Europa League counts as a major trophy since all you get is a Champions League spot from it. And it only becomes a major trophy if you're like miles outside the top 7. Oh, right, yeah, what's their names? Haas were also helped by the 2 Ferraris being disqualified at China thanks to their floor being too low from what I heard, and of course the plank being worn off too much. Obviously, I'm supposed to do an F1 stream, so this is a bit of a problem. Thank you for 3 likes, of course. But yeah, question marks for Ferrari and their design philosophy for this season, where they basically have designed a one-off car for this season. Despite the fact we've got new regulations in 2026 where we will have the new engines with more electrical power being utilised. So, all I can say is Ferrari are very much their worst enemies in pretty much every way possible, and it's been the same story since the end of 2008. To be fair, Felipe Massa could have been world champion had it not been for what happened in the last 5 laps with Timo Glock. And of course, funnily enough, I think Kovalainen and Timo Glock actually gained the position by staying out on the dry tyres. But, of course, most of the other drivers pitted because they didn't know how the rain would affect their performances at the end of the last 2 or 3 laps. Funnily enough, though, I think Glock, like I said, Glock and Kovalainen gained a position from staying out. Yeah, as we all know, Crystal Palace have been to 2 FA Cup finals in 1990 and 2016, and they finished runners-up. So obviously, oh my God, obviously, I think we cannot underestimate how much they want this trophy. How would you react if Massa wins the 2008 title in the courtroom? Oh my word, get out of here, Felipe. Oh my God, please, 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 no. I really hope we do not see Massa win his court case. Because otherwise, we'll probably see Hamilton go after Max's 2021 title. And then we'll see Alonso probably go after like 2007, 2010, 2012, and whatever other season he feels like he got cheated because he's Fernando Alonso. he does what he wants. He'll, I don't know. I mean, but heck, we'll probably see. Okay, we might. Okay, I almost said we might see Adam Prost go after Ayrton Senna's title in 1990, but obviously, I mean, that'd be horrifically tasteless if he did. I don't think Prost is the type of person to do that. Likewise, I know some say that Damon Hill could go after Schumacher in 1994, but of course, we have the same situation with those two again. I don't know. I mean, I did write Felipe Massa's being like, was it number 18 in my all-time top 50 favourite drivers on Twitter, but I have to say this court case has dropped him down the list severely, and I have to say he's probably now like what 45th favourites or something like that. Yeah. Yes, once again, I mean, Piastri, even though I think he could improve his qualifying pace, has really peaked when it's mattered most, to be honest. Like, even though, yes, I know he'll be looking at improving his one-lap pace, I think he's doing what's been asked of him. And you have to remember, it's only his third season F1 at the age of, 24 years old. So, he's going to get bare, folks. And, if he wins the championship this year, he'll be winning the championship at the same age as what Alonso did 2 decades ago. And, of course, only Vettel and Hamilton have won the championship at a younger age at the age of 23. And, of course, obviously, Max was also only 24 years old when he won the championship 4 years ago. So, I think Piastri will be putting himself in the position to become, the 5th youngest champion to become a world champion if he does it this season. So we cannot underestimate the progress he's made in the past 18 months or so. Well, I don't know. I wrote that top 50 drivers list like 4 years ago. Like, I didn't know Massa was like going to come out and start begging for a return of his the 2008 title that never was his. I mean, he was only champion for like 15 odd seconds anyway, so. Oh, it looks like Palace are in trouble, but Palace win the ball back. I don't know why you find it that funny, though, because it's a list I wrote, 4 or 5 years ago. I'm like, how the hell could I see Massa going rogue all of a sudden? Like, I kind of underestimated Massa having such a petty side to his personality, to be honest. It's really, really, like, pulled Massa down in my estimation as being a likeable character, to be honest. Let's look at the driver's comments, folks. I think we've had enough of staring at that screen. Oh, yeah, I know he helped Kimi win the title in 2007. I'm not going to deny that, obviously. I'll always be grateful for that, but honestly, his court case has really, really diminished what I think of him as a person in my eyes, I'm afraid. One stop, would it be a 2-stop? I think with the C6 tyres, it could make it a 2-stop unless obviously someone decides to use a hard and a medium tyres instead, which is obviously a possibility for some of the back markers. It potentially opens up Pandora's box if Massa wins his court case for 2008, and I will maintain that if Massa and Ferrari really had a problem with what happened at Singapore, they should have done it within like 2 or 3 weeks after the race. Like, they really should have like made an appeal to the FIA within 2 weeks maximum after the Singaporean Grand Prix had finished. I mean, had they gone after Alonso and Renault back in 2008, then I would have understood what they were trying to do 100%. But the fact is that Massa waited like nearly 40, after 14 odd years later in early 2023 to do the court case, which is egregious and ridiculous in my eyes. That's all I'm going to say. Williams look like they could snatch a surprise podium. You can watch the COLAPINTO crash all you want. Rookie mistake. My God, Man City are really struggling now, aren't they? Once again, George Russell has been insanely consistent this season, despite not having a car that can challenge for race wins. Easily the best of the rest behind McLaren and Max Verstappen. Yeah, Max Verstappen is absolutely not a fan of the C6 tyres this weekend. Looks like George also agrees that the medium compounds is a bad tyre this weekend, and I would not be surprised to see a couple of drivers attempt a one-stop with a hard and a medium compounds as their strategy and forego using the C6 tyres, and it looks like the C6 tyres might well be... I mean, if anyone uses that, I think they'll probably only use it when there's like a safety car period interrupting the race, or if there's like a late red flag in the race with only 10 laps to go, and then we might see the C6 tyres. But because obviously if you use a C6, you're going to have to do a two-stop because they don't have much tyre life and they wear off far too quickly. And they don't even give you a performance boost over the mediums or the hards. The most important question for the race is, would both Ferrari and Antonelli score points? I don't know, mate. It depends on what goes on with, like, wait, did Hadjar miss? Oh, yeah, I forgot. Hadjar actually placed in Q... Oh, he did get into Q3, but he ended up in 9th place. I think this all depends on what happens to, like, Hadjar and Gasly and maybe Stroll tomorrow. Like, if they have problems with their tyres tomorrow, then maybe the two Ferraris and Antonelli might grab a points finish. Yuki Tsunoda, obviously, yeah, he's screwed, isn't he? He's screwed, so... Well... Yeah, Yuki Tsunoda, I mean, he can't get a handle on the Red Bull. He's consistently almost like 8 tenths to maybe a full second off the pace compared to Max, especially this track. He's really struggling with the RB21 this weekend. Yeah, and honestly, Red Bull really only have themselves to blame with the problems that Yuki is experiencing, because this is what you get when you design a car that only suits Max Verstappen and no one else in particular. Yeah, Ferrari are probably... I mean, if Ferrari finish like 8th and 9th tomorrow, I mean, that's probably the best result they can get. It's going to be damage limitation this weekend. And what a finish that was by Eberechi. But yeah, look at that. No, Gallagher wasn't very happy. Pretty much mimicking the impression I can imagine of John Corty having behind his own screen, shaking his head. Lawson struggling since returning to RB. Yeah, I think Lawson is getting exposed by Hadjar. Like, I know people talked about how good Lawson was when he was in DTM, outpacing Aston, but it's a completely different category of racing cars, with like the cars weighing over a ton, having the same power to weight ratio as obviously the Formula 3 cars. So I think, we have to take some of Lawson's results before coming to F1 with a massive pinch of salt. I don't think Lawson ever won a junior title, so it wasn't like he was like an immediate like standout talent like with Max Verstappen. I have no idea who recipe platter is, but I mean, if you're not a bot, then yeah, welcome to Crystal Racing Recipe Platter. But if you are a bot, then please disappear. Thank you for 4 likes, and I think I'm gonna go out for a walk now. I don't know. Has there been any other football games on apart from the League 2 playoffs? I've no idea. And of course, that is your bottom 10. The 2 Ferraris got eliminated. Antonelli, Bottas, COLAPINTO, Lawson, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Bearman, and Tsunoda got eliminated early on in the session. And the top 10 with Piastri on pole, Verstappen, second row, Russell and Norris, the British duo. Alonso with his best performance of the season with 5th place. Yes, the Tifosi leaving the Emilia track very early on this afternoon at Emilia, of course, alongside countryman Carlos Sainz in 6th place. Albon and Stroll on the 4th row, and of course the French duo Hadjar and Gasly on row 5. Yeah, I mean, honest to God, I think Ferrari have designed what could well be the worst car they've had since 2020, to be honest, where of course they finished only 6th in the Constructors' title. And let's be really honest, I would not be surprised if Williams overtook them for 4th place in this race. It really is looking absolutely ominous for the Scuderia T-Brake boys. First time there has been something to talk about besides just talking about driver careers. Yeah, well, Ferrari have been atrocious. Especially this weekend alone, they've been shocking. Just shocking, really. Is that a penalty to City? Oh, it is a penalty to City. Yeah. Oh, I didn't realise that. Blind me. I mean, Ty Ritual was involved in the first goal, and now did he give away the penalty kick? Blind me. Yeah, so there's your pole sticker for those you can't see. 14.67. Piastri went only as 10 faster than he did in FP3, which I have to say, I think obviously, even though he did get pole position, his qualifying pace could improve because there's more pace in that McLaren. But of course, I think obviously Piastri not being a qualifying expert and Norris just being downright inconsistent always. You know, I think they could have. Like Max Verstappen probably could have got like a 14.4 in that car if he was driving it. Like probably got another 3 temps out of it. I don't know what you're laughing at, say, but I mean, I don't know. Williams to finish 3rd in the championship, that would be one hell of a story. But I think the cost cap regulations could well probably see Williams drop off a little bit in the second half of the year. But I have to say, Red Bull are in real trouble with Yuki Tsunoda in particular, because it looks like Omar Mamouche is stepping up for the penalty kick to potentially get Man City back in the match. I wonder how many Man United fans have pretended to be Crystal Palace fans today. Heck, even probably a couple of Arsenal fans have decided to put that red and blue jersey on. I think DTM racing is on next weekend with, of course, the last weekend of the Premier League. Oh, and Man City, guys. Oh, it's still Palace 1, Man City 0. Double save by Dean Henderson from both Mamouche and Haaland. And the Perez fans are going ballistic with joy. Could this be 2013 happening all over again for Man City when, of course, they lost to Wigan Athletic, a town more renowned for rugby than football? Oh dear, it's going wrong for the Sky Blues. Indeed. Brilliant performance. I mean, Dean Henderson's probably going to be number 2 for England now, isn't he? In the goalkeeping stakes. And our favourite Norwegian Thai followers on this chat has gone very quiet, understandably so, because Man City are looking very wooden in front of goal. I hope you're enjoying your afternoon tea, because this is a difficult watch if you're a Man City fan. I mean, if you're a McLaren fan, I mean, well, 1st and 4th place, and of course Norris once again letting the side down again with another average performance in qualifying. And he's got so much more speed in him as a driver. I think, honestly, the fact that Piastri has dominated him so much so far this season has really brought him down a lot. And I think that crash he had in Saudi qualifying has also played a few mind tricks on him, because his self-belief in terms of pushing to the maximum in qualifying has somewhat evaporated. I mean, he can still be, I mean, obviously, Piastri, if he carries on driving like he does, I think he should be on course to win his first ever championship and stop Max Verstappen from becoming the youngest quintuple champion, as well as the youngest consecutive quintuple champion the sport has ever seen. So, I mean, Oscar Piastri is still in a very good position to, become Australia's first world champion in 45 years. You should still be very happy with that, considering the fact that Norris bought the driver's title last year, and the fact that McLaren are looking very likely to make it 2 Constructors' Championships in a row, having gone on a 26-year Constructors' title drought since 1998. And of course, neither Norris nor Piastri were even alive at that point, funny enough. Kimi Räikkönen had only just turned 19 years old. The rookie, Fernando Alonso, was still 17 years old. Hamilton was only 13 years old. Vettel was, well, he was still a prepubescent 11-year-old. Now we're talking about drivers who are already retired from the sport at this point. I mean, Sainz, obviously, I think Sainz and Albon is probably the most closely matched driver pairing, along with obviously Leclerc and Hamilton at Ferrari, if we're going to be truly honest. And considering Albon's form, I think you could make a case that Williams might actually have a better driver partnership than Ferrari. I don't know if Keith has gone to sleep, because of course I know he's living on the other side of the world. I don't know what Spain, fire. I don't know. I mean, if you're talking about the F1 drivers, yeah, well, they had a good qualifying session. If you're talking about their football team, yeah, their football team is obviously, I mean, Spain have reached the Nations League semi-finals. They look pretty good to win it again. They won the last Olympics. They won the last European Championships. They won the last Women's World Cup, and they also won the Women's Nations League. And of course, funnily enough, this year's Champions League final will not have a team from Spain or England for the first time since I don't even remember when. Since of course it's Inter Milan from Italy and PSG from France in the final. What are you talking about? I don't know what you. No, I was talking about what was it? What was it? Norris and Piastri not actually being born after what was it? McLaren's penultimate constructors title in 1998. That's what I was talking about. I don't know what you mean. I'm a bit confused. Um, um, oh no, I think, can you explain that point a bit more? Because I don't quite know what you actually mean. What you mean is getting a bit. You know what? I think I'm going to end the stream now because I don't really have anything else to say. You know, thank you for watching the stream. I think I'll let you go and watch the FA Cup final if you're watching it here at Crystal Racing. Oh, right. Yeah. But I don't know what you mean by me saying that something I said means that I was not valid. I don't know what you mean. That's a bit confusing the way you wrote it. I don't know what you mean. I was talking about Norris and Piastri. Was it not being alive when McLaren won the Constructors' title in 1998, which was obviously their most recent title until last year? I don't know what you mean, John. I'm really getting a bit confused by what you're saying, which is really odd. I mean, obviously, I was alive when McLaren won the Constructors' title in 1998. I mean, unless you misheard, like, thought I said something else, then I think I'll make a few apologies for that. But yeah, yeah, Dean Henderson, absolutely brilliant performance so far. Um, all right, okay, fair enough. All right, okay, fair enough. Fair enough, okay, fair enough. So you basically, okay, fair enough. Like, well, I suppose I'll say, I don't know, mate. Yes, obviously the 75th anniversary for Formula One came a few days ago when, of course, 70 years, 75 years passed when they held when the British Grand Prix of 1950 was held, and of course that marked the first ever F1 World Championship race. I mean, I think the first ever car race was held between Paris and Bordeaux back in 1895 when it was like a bunch of Citroens and Renaults being driven around at like 10 or 20 miles an hour, and it was like an event that lasted 23 hours plus, but then the winner got disqualified for not having 2 seats in the car. So even in the first ever car race in 1895, they were disqualifying people for technical issues. Obviously, I think they launched the first ever European Grand Prix Championship in the late 1920s. Or was it the early 1930s? Where I think, what's his name? Tazio Nuvolari became a champion. And of course, Giuseppe Farina, who was 44 years old, became world champion in 1950 for Alfa Romeo, just ahead of Manuel Fangio, who would go on to win it 5 times. So, and of course, I think Fangio lost the championship that year in agonisingly unlucky circumstances in a season that had 7 races. Which included the Indy 500, despite the fact that none of the European drivers in F1 attended the race that year. Gonna look for any other messages that they've put up. Join us tomorrow. Steve Martin having a good session. 2010 Singapore was pretty good, wasn't it? Alonso beating Vettel for a very, very narrow win. Right, me. Someone got injured because a seat was thrown by the fans in Scottish football. That's really... They showed the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Of course, we have to remember... Oh, Libya? No, I think that was Morocco that hosted an F1 race. Unless you're talking about a non-championship race for Libya, which is obviously possible, but if you look through an F1 like records book, then it's Morocco that held a race at the end of 1958, from what I think that happened in Casablanca, no less. And I think Morocco even had a driver represent them, despite the fact he was actually like born and raised in France. But delightful Alonso, but Hamilton devastated. Oh dear. Ferrari brought the 3 softest tyres to the race in the hopes of preventing a one-stop strategy. Oh, the Tripoli Grand Prix of 1925. Yeah, but that's not an F1 race, mate, because F1 didn't start until like 1950 as an official world championship. I don't know if they used the Formula 1 name before, but like, if you look at all the F1 stats, they only started in 1950. But they did used to call it the European Grand Prix Championship at the time, I think. So, okay, fair enough. If you're counting that, then yeah, but like, the only time we've had a F1 race in North Africa was when Morocco held it in 1958 in Casablanca. So, and of course, all the other African races have been held in South Africa, of course, who last held it in 1993. And I know there was a lengthy stoppage for obviously between 85 and 92 because of apartheid at the time, but of course everyone objected to having a race in South Africa for a while because of that. You know what, I think we'll end it there. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time here at Crystal Racing.